I was turning a jar lid this morning, just opening coffee, and my thumb found that exact spot where you press to get leverage. Not thinking about it, 60 years of opening stuck things, and my hands still know. They settle into the grip the way you'd recognize a voice in a crowd. Automatic. I set the jar down and looked at my palms for a minute, the way the light came through the kitchen window and showed every line, every callus that's mostly smoothed out now. They're still my hands. They just don't get asked the same questions anymore. I used to keep a small toolbox in the trunk. Not the big one that stayed in the garage, but a kit with the essentials. Screwdrivers, pliers, duct tape, that kind of thing. Because someone always needed something tightened or unstuck or jury-rigged until they could get it looked at properly. My daughter's cabinet door, the neighbor's lawnmower that wouldn't start, my son-in-law's bookshelf that wobbled. I'd pull up, pop the trunk, and know before I even looked what the problem probably was. Not because I was brilliant, just because I'd seen it before, fixed it before, knew what a loose hinge sounded like versus a stripped screw. The toolbox is still in there. I checked a few months ago, just curious. Everything's where I left it, tools nested in their spots like they're waiting for a call. Hasn't been touched in, I don't know, 3 years, maybe 4. I thought about taking it out, bringing it into the house, but then I thought, for what? It's not hurting anything out there. And maybe I like knowing it's still there, just in case. I didn't notice when people stopped calling. That's the part that surprises me when I think about it now. There wasn't a moment where someone said, "We'll take it from here," or "Thanks, but we've got it covered." It just faded. My daughter started calling a handyman. I didn't know until I asked her once how that bookshelf was holding up, and she said, "Oh, we had someone come out and replace the whole thing." That was it. Not unkind, just a fact. My son started watching YouTube videos, figuring things out on his own. The neighbors got younger, and the new ones didn't know I was the guy who used to help with things like that. They'd wave from the driveway, friendly enough, but they didn't know to ask. I wasn't hurt by it. That's what I keep coming back to. I thought I might be when I first noticed. I thought I'd feel something sharp, like being told you weren't needed anymore. But it wasn't like that. It was more like realizing you'd stopped getting calls from an old friend and you couldn't remember the last time you'd spoken, and it didn't sting, it was just true. Life moved, and the shape of things changed, and somewhere in there I stopped being the person people thought of when something broke. I was good at fixing things, not in a showy way, but in the way where something worked when I was done with it. That mattered to me for a long time, more than I probably said out loud. I liked being the one people counted on, the one who could look at a problem and know what to do, or at least know what to try first. There was something straightforward about it. Something broke, you fixed it. You didn't have to talk about your feelings or figure out what someone meant when they said they were fine. You just tightened the bolt or replaced the washer, and the thing worked again. Clean, clear, useful. I think that's what I liked most. Feeling useful, not in a big saving-the-world way, just in the small, everyday way of keeping things running, making life a little easier for people I cared about. My wife used to joke that I'd hear a rattle from 3 rooms away and need to go investigate. She wasn't wrong. It got under my skin, knowing something wasn't working the way it should. Not because I was a perfectionist, I wasn't, but because I knew I could probably fix it, and if I could, why wouldn't I? I don't hear those rattles the same way anymore. Or maybe I do, but I don't feel that pull to go solve it. The bathroom faucet drips a little sometimes, and I know exactly what it needs. New washer, 10-minute job, but I just let it drip. It's not bothering anyone. I'll get to it eventually, or I won't. It doesn't gnaw at me like it used to. My son came over last week to help me move some boxes up to the attic. He's in his 40s now, strong, capable. We were halfway up the ladder when he paused and said, "You know, I'm finally starting to understand what you were doing all those years." I wasn't sure what he meant, so I just waited. He said, "Fixing things, not because they needed it right that second, but because you couldn't stand the idea of something being broken when it didn't have to be." I nodded. That was about right. He smiled, a little sad maybe, and said, "I get it now. Too bad I didn't ask you to teach me more back then." I told him what I tell myself. He learned plenty. He knows how to figure things out. That's most of it, really, not being afraid to try, to see how something works. The rest is just repetition. He seemed to feel better after I said that, or maybe he was just being polite. We finished moving the boxes and he left, and I sat in the kitchen for a while, thinking about what he'd said. I wonder sometimes if he wishes he'd learned more from me, if my daughter feels the same way. I never pushed it on them. Didn't make them hold the flashlight while I worked, didn't insist they watch me bleed a radiator or change the oil. Maybe I should have. Maybe I thought there'd be more time, or maybe I just wanted them to choose their own way of doing things. I don't know. It's one of those questions that doesn't really have an answer, or if it does, the answer doesn't change anything. What surprises me most is how okay I am with all of it. Not in a resigned way, but in a genuinely okay way. I thought losing that part of myself, the guy who fixes things, would feel like losing something central, like a musician who can't play anymore, or a teacher who retires and doesn't know who they are without the classroom. But it didn't happen like that. I'm still me. I still know how to hold a wrench, how to read a circuit breaker, how to tell if a door hinge just needs oil or if the whole frame's out of square. That knowledge didn't go anywhere. It's still in my hands, in my head. It just doesn't get used the same way, and maybe that's enough. Maybe it was never about the fixing itself. Maybe it was about being present, about paying attention to the small things that keep life running. I can still do that. I notice when the porch step is starting to rot, even if I don't replace it right away. I see when a tree branch is hanging too low, even if I don't trim it myself. I'm still watching, still aware. The doing part, the part where I'd grab my tools and take care of it, that's quieter now, but the noticing hasn't stopped. I walk through the house sometimes and see all the things I fixed over the years. The banister I tightened when the kids were small and learning to climb the stairs. The tile in the bathroom I replaced after a pipe leaked. The ceiling fan I installed the summer it was so hot we couldn't sleep. They're all still here, still working, and nobody thinks about them because that's what you want from something that's fixed. You want it to disappear into the background, to just work. But I know, I see them. And there's a quiet satisfaction in that, in knowing my hands shaped this space in small ways that still matter, even if no one remembers. My wife asked me a few months ago if I missed it. It being the fixing, I guess, the being needed for that kind of thing. I didn't know how to answer at first. I thought about it for a while, sitting with the question the way I'd sit with a stubborn bolt that wouldn't turn, waiting to feel which way the threads wanted to go. And then I told her, I missed the doing sometimes, the feel of solving a problem with my hands, but I didn't miss the weight of it, the pressure of always being the one who had to know, who had to fix. I didn't realize that was there until it was gone. She nodded, like that made sense. Then she said, "You're still good at fixing things, you know. You just do it differently now." I asked her what she meant, and she said, "You fixed the remote last week when it wouldn't work. You figured out the thermostat when it was acting up. You helped me remember how to upload photos on my phone." I laughed at that, because those aren't the kind of things I think of as fixing, but I guess she's right. The tools change. The problems change. But maybe the part of me that wants things to work, that hasn't changed at all. There are moments when I feel the old pull. Someone will mention something that's not working right, and my mind will start running through possibilities before I can stop it. Could be the motor, could be a loose connection, could be something simple they're just not seeing. And then I catch myself, because they're not asking me. They're just talking. Or they've already figured it out on their own, or they've called someone who gets paid to do this now. And I sit back and I let it go. Not because I can't help, but because help wasn't what they needed from me in that moment. I'm learning to be okay with that, learning to let people solve their own problems, even when I can see the answer so clearly. It's like a flashing sign in my head, because maybe that's part of getting older too, knowing when to step in and when to step back. Knowing that being useful doesn't always mean doing. Sometimes it just means being there, listening, not fixing, just witnessing. The wrench is still in the toolbox in the trunk. The screwdrivers are still sorted by size. The duct tape probably needs replacing by now, but I haven't checked. I might pull that toolbox out one day, bring it inside, reorganize it for no reason other than I want to feel the weight of the tools in my hands again. Or I might leave it exactly where it is, a small museum of a version of myself that's still true, just quieter now. I opened that coffee jar this morning without thinking about it, and my hands knew what to do. That's enough. That's more than enough. The rest, the calls that don't come, the problems I don't solve, none of that takes away from what my hands still know, what they've always known. I was the person who fixed things. And in a way, I still am. Just not in the way I used to be. I'm sitting here now, and my hands are resting on the table, and I can see every line, every scar, every place where the skin's gone thin and papery. They're old hands now, but they're good hands. Strong enough, steady enough. And if someone asked, if someone really needed, I'd know what to do. But mostly, I just let them rest. If you've ever felt your purpose shift quietly, or watched your hands remember what they no longer do, I'd love to hear about it. What's the skill or role that used to define you, and how did you find your way when it changed?